A frozen finale. Today, we pick up with Roxy and Ash as they stare onward with Iris in their sights. Ash can't believe it. Iris yells, "Where have you been?" Iris just laughs. She says, "So, you missed me that much?" Roxy says, "More like worried. We haven't heard from you in weeks. When we tried to follow up with you at the Castelia Pokemon Center, you weren't there." Iris says, "Yeah, sorry about that. I kinda got a little held up." Ash just yells at Iris, "That doesn't mean you couldn't at least let us know what you were doing." Iris says, alright, I'm sorry. So it took me a little while longer than I thought it would. But I'm here now." Ash says, "Yeah, a lot of good that does." The overall time since the trio split ways was about a month. And in that time frame, Ash has grown a lot, but so has Iris. Iris runs over to her friends to actually greet them in person. And the first thing that catches her eye that's different is Roxy and Zora. Iris compliments Roxy, saying, "Oh, so you must have caught some new Pokemon while I was away." Roxy says, "This little guy? Well, I actually got him from the Team Plasma Reparation Center in Driftville City." Iris, out of puzzlement, questions, "The Team Plasma Reparation Center?" Ash says, "Yeah, it's a place that the former members of Team Plasma built in order to try and reunite the Pokemon that they had stole with their trainers." Iris says, "Wow, I rushed through Driftville City so fast that I didn't even notice that it was there. I guess I should have stopped to say hi to Clay and check up on an old friend at the Pokemon Center." With the tension still high, Roxy asks, "So, did you accomplish what you wanted to do?" Iris says, "You mean the rotation battles?" Ash says, "Yeah, that was the reason you wanted to leave after all," with a snarky tone. Iris then pulls out a Pokeball. "I don't know, Ash. Would you like to find out?" Riolu reacts with excitement. It wants a chance to battle Iris, as he hasn't seen her in a while. This catches Ash's attention. He's not going to say no to a battle, and besides, he wants to show Iris just how strong he's become. Iris tells Ash that this will be a rotation battle, so he's going to have to pick 3 Pokemon. Ash says, "Oh, don't worry, I got 3 Pokemon for you." Obviously, Ash is going to go with Riolu, because it's itching to battle with Iris, and he has 2 more surprises for her. He thinks to himself, she has no idea what's coming, but Iris may have a couple of surprises of her own. Iris asks Ash if he remembers the rules of a rotation battle. Ash says, "Yeah, I remember. We pick 3 Pokemon, and we get to randomly send them in to dodge and attack. So we have to be very strategic in what we're doing. If I recall, you couldn't quite adapt to that last time." Iris tells Ash, "Don't worry, I've grown a lot since then. Remember, I was trained by the person who made these battles, and not only did I learn how to battle from him, but I eventually surpassed him." Ash tells Iris, "Don't worry, you're not the only one that's grown, so what do you say we get down to this battle?" Iris says, "I thought you would never ask," and they both take their positions. Iris sends in Axew, Emolga, and Servine, the same 3 that she did the last rotation battle with. Ash thinks to himself, those 3 didn't really have a lot of coordination last time, so he's got it in the bag. And he's going to throw Iris completely off. He tells Riolu to take point position, and then he sends in 2 of his newest captures, Electric and Krokorok. This does kind of throw Iris off a bit. She compliments Ash on being able to overall broaden his team. She hadn't given it much thought on any Pokemon that he may have actually caught at this time. Ash says, "Oh, don't worry, you have no idea what we can do." Ash is a little overconfident. It's kind of like he's trying to punish Iris for seeking to become stronger on her own. Iris can tell that something's off, but she gives Ash the first move. Ash gladly takes it, and he orders Riolu to fire an Aura Sphere. Iris knew this was coming, so she orders Servine to use a Grass Mixer in order to counter the Aura Sphere. This knocks the attack back, but it just swerves off and doesn't really hit anything else. She tells Ash that he's going to have to do better than that. A rotation battle isn't just a one-on-one battle. You're going to have to be a little bit more strategic if you want to win this. Ash says, "Don't worry, I've grown in your absence. It's not like I needed your help to win my last 2 badges anyway." This kind of hits Iris. She wasn't expecting Ash to say something like that, but she puts her feelings to the side and she orders a counterattack from Emolga to use a Volt Switch. Ash orders Riolu and Electric to trade positions, and Electric to charge in with a Spark. The 2 Pokemon collide, canceling each other out, but Emolga immediately retreats and is swapped in with Axew, which hits Electric with a Dragon Rage, taking serious damage at point blank range. Iris tells Ash, "See, I told you, you're gonna have to be a little bit more flexible with your battling style if you want to beat me." Ash says, "Oh, don't worry, I got flexible," and he orders Krokorok to take point with Dig and Electric to retreat. Krokorok does, and Krokorok rushes in and is able to get into Axew with the Dig. Ash wanted to capitalize on this, and then orders a Stone Edge, which rushes into Axew. Iris then orders Axew to counter with the Dragon Rage, which connects with the Stone Edges. Then she immediately orders Servine back in, which hits with the Leaf Blade on Krokorok, causing a critical hit. Krokorok takes a lot of damage and is nearly knocked out. It's barely able to stand up. Iris tells Ash, "That was a little bit better, but you're gonna have to try harder if you want to be able to take this battle." Ash says, "Don't worry, we can do this," still thinking with the single one-on-one battle mindset. He orders Krokorok to fall back and Riolu to jump back in with the Force Bomb, but Iris was ready for this, and she counters by sending in an Emolga. Emolga hits it with a nuzzle, paralyzing Riolu, causing it to slow down. Then Riolu is hit with a U-turn, which causes Emolga to fall back, and she swaps back in with Axew, which Riolu can no longer dodge, and Axew fires a Dragon Rage, knocking it down. Ash doesn't get it. He's using some of his best moves and his Pokemon's best abilities, but he just can't seem to get in sync. All three of them are off. Iris tells Ash, "It's not just your Pokemon, Ash. It's you that's off. You're not using your Pokemon to their fullest potential. That is what a rotation battle is about." Ash is frustrated with Iris, not just because of the battle, but because she decided to leave when she did, and it took her this long to return, so he's not really listening to what she's saying. And unfortunately, the battle goes on like this. Eventually, Iris picking off each one of Ash's Pokemon until it's just Riolu left, and it's in paralysis. Riolu does get a hit in with Aura Sphere, knocking out Emolga, the biggest threat to it, but it still has to deal with Axew and Servine. Ash and Riolu are having trouble dodging the combination of the two, with Iris still having the ability to rotate out to dodge and counter the attacks. But the battle is going on longer and it's getting more intense. This is where Riolu's new power starts to emerge. As it surges harder with Aura, it seems to be able to push through the paralysis, catching Iris off guard, and it hits Axew with the Force Palm, knocking it out. Iris is impressed. It seems that Riolu's skill has grown a lot more than she thought it was. Ash tells her they've had a lot more exposure to this form as of recently. He even got the chance to battle with Grimsley of the Elite Four, and that battle took Riolu and him to the edge. Iris says, "Oh, you got a chance to battle Grimsley, eh? Well then, let me give you the same kind of challenge," and she orders Servine to rush in with another Leaf Blade. Ash orders Riolu to counter it with a Force Palm, which connects. Riolu is still struggling to maintain its aura. The battle has been drawn out and it has taken most of the damage, to where Servine is still pretty fresh and has taken little to no damage. It quickly becomes apparent that Servine has the overall endurance left in it to finish out this battle, and it does, taking Riolu down when it pushes the Leaf Blade through the Force Palm, connecting with a critical hit, knocking Riolu out. Ash rushes to Riolu's side. He's extremely upset that he lost, and he lost to Iris. Iris recalls Servine and goes over to see if Rielu's okay. She asks Ash if he needs a hand. Ash just looks at her and says no, he's got this. Fortunately for the group, it's about to be sunset, so they decide to make camp to where they can tend to the wounds of all their Pokemon, and they can actually start to rest and catch up. Once everybody's settled in, Roxy asks Iris how she'd been, what has been going on, so Iris starts to elaborate. She headed back to Castelia City to give Brody a piece of her mind, but once she actually started to talk with him, she realized that rotation battles were a fun and interesting way to actually battle Pokemon. So, after many attempts and trial and error, she was finally able to get the rotation battle down. And not only that, but that annoying girl Georgia that she had ran into before, she was there too. Once she realized what I was doing, she wasn't going to be left behind. So, she spent the same amount of time training with me until it came down to both of us. Brody wanted to see what both of us have learned, so me and Georgia had our own rotation battle. And in the end, it ended in a draw, when her Beartic and Servine both knocked each other out. Georgia wasn't happy with it, but I was satisfied with the result. Rotation battles are an interesting way to battle Pokemon, and it's something that I decided that I wanted to actually try and hone the craft of. Brody was super excited with me wanting to learn his battle style. And then Ash chimes in. Because you're the champion, Iris gets quiet. She wasn't expecting Ash to say that. Ash then rebuttals. So when were you planning on telling me? Iris says, oh, so you found out, huh? Ash says, yeah, when we ran into Rude, one of the sages of Team Plasma back in Driftvale City. He was actually looking for you, wondering when you were going to make your presence known so we could update you on the doings of Neo Team Plasma. But when we arrived, you weren't with us. And then before I had my gym battle with Clay, he confirmed that you were the current champion. But all I want to know is why? Why wouldn't you tell me something like that, Iris? Iris gets quiet. This just makes Ash more angry. He doesn't understand why she would keep a secret like that. There was absolutely no reason to. Ash begins to berate Iris, telling her if she was a real friend, then she would have trusted him. She would have been okay with telling him. Iris then says, I'm sorry, okay? This makes Ash quiet and captures Roxy's attention. She goes, you have to understand, Ash. Growing up, I didn't have a lot of friends, and after losing my parents, I spent a lot of time with just Pokemon. If it wasn't for my grandfather and the elder of my village and the kindness they showed me, I may be a completely different person than I am today. And after dealing with Team Plasma the last time and becoming a sudden focal point of the region, I didn't really know what was real anymore. All of a sudden, I went from having very little to no people even knowing who I was or caring about me to having everybody wanting to know who I was and pretending to care. It's really hard to separate who's your real friends and who's not. Iris says, with you guys, it felt genuine and I didn't want to mess that up. So I hid who I was because I didn't want it to influence our friendship. Roxy turns to Iris and says, yeah, I can understand why you would say that. This just makes Ash quieter. He hangs his head and he turns and he walks away. Iris calls out to him, but Roxy says, no, just let him go. He needs some time to himself. After discovering that you were a champion and then the time that you spent away kind of took a toll on him. It wasn't that he was mad at you, he just wanted to understand, but all the information you just gave him was a lot for him to take in. So just give him some time. He'll come back. Iris just stares at Ash as he walks away. About an hour after Ash leaves, he's joined by Riolu. Ash is just sitting on the edge of a drop drop-off, looking at the stars. Riolu joins him, trying to make sure that Ash is okay. Ash confides in Riolu. He can't believe that Iris would hold something like all of her sadness that she was holding in, and she wouldn't share it with her friends. He still doesn't understand why. All he ever did was share everything with her. Any experiences that he had ever had. He doesn't understand why she couldn't trust him the same way that he trusted her. He feels like he was betrayed, and he doesn't know if he would actually be able to trust her again. For her to think that he was so shallow, that something like her being the champion would influence their friendship, that mindset is just ludicrous to him, Ash thinks to himself. Then he hears a voice behind him. Hey. Ash turns, and it's Iris. Iris says, do you mind if I join you? Ash tells her, sure, do whatever you want. I mean, it's not like I can stop you from doing anything anyway. Iris sits next to Ash. She says, listen, I know there's a lot of things that I was keeping from you guys, and for that, I'm truly sorry. I know that you guys are my friends. It's something that I should have said a lot sooner. But when you have your walls up for so long, it's kind of hard to let them down. Ash then looks over to her. He can see by the look on Iris's face that this is a genuine statement that she's making. Ash then says, listen, I know that you had a lot going on, but I just don't understand why you would want to keep that stuff from us. I get the whole not being able to tell who really is a friend and who isn't, but we traveled together long enough to where I thought you would at least be able to tell the truth to me. Iris then says, listen, for the final time, I'm sorry. Ash says, I don't want you to say you're sorry. Iris says, well then what do you want me to say? Ash says, I want you to promise that you'll never keep stuff from me again. This hits Iris. What do you mean? She says. Ash says, listen, we're friends. Friends don't keep things from each other. So if you're going through something, please tell us. How do you expect me to help you? All the things that you've done for me, all the time that you've helped me, helping me overcome the barrier that I had with Riolu and some of my other Pokemon, how could you think that I wouldn't do something like that for you? So promise you won't keep any secrets from me. Iris says, if it'll prevent you from being mad at me any further, then fine. I promise I won't keep any more secrets from you. Iris puts out her hand to shake on it. Ash looks at her and he gives her a smile and he shakes her hand. With that, the two return to the campsite where Roxy and Zora are fast asleep and they settle in for the night. The next day, the trio set out for Twist Mountain. This mountain is a maze inside. Over the years, construction workers have been digging, mining resources from it. But not only that, within the last year or so, there have been a lot of discoveries of ancient ruins inside and a lot of ancient cave paintings. And in these ruins are depictions of an ancient war that was fought in the Unova region. And because of the sensitivity of all the archaeological sites, Ash, Iris, and Roxy are forced to take a special route through Twist Mountain to get them to Icera City and the site of Ash's next gym battle. This route is actually a little bit quicker than the normal route through Twist Mountain. It was dug in response to all these recent discoveries, and because of it, they arrive in Icera City rather quickly. And Ash's first instinct is head to the gym, because he wants to battle the gym leader. Iris says, you know Ash, you've already met this gym leader. Ash says, really? When? Thinking long and hard, and then he snaps, wait, was it back at Pokestar Studios? Iris says, yeah, Brycen. This is his gym, so there's a good chance that he may not be here, because he may be off filming a movie. Ash sighs, I hope he's here. I actually really wanted a chance to battle him, and he told me the only way I can earn a gym badge is if I battle him at the gym. So they all decide to head to the gym to see if Brycen is actually available. They're in luck. Once they arrive, Brycen is actually outside of the gym. He is talking with somebody and bidding them farewell. And then an emotion that would suggest that he's actually locking the gym, Ash calls out to Brycen. Brycen turns to be greeted by Ash, Roxy, and Iris. Hey, Iris, Ash, long time no see. And Roxy, you've joined them as well? It's been a while. Ash is super pumped. He asks Brycen if he can have a gym battle. Brycen laughs and says, I'm sorry, Ash, but that's not something I can do. Ash says, what do you mean? Brycen replies, well, my duties as a movie star have become way too demanding lately, and I made the choice to shut down the gym. Ash and Iris are shocked about this. What do you mean you're shutting down the gym? Brycen says, I just can't do it anymore. I have to move to Burbank City to be closer to the studio. The amount of movies that we're putting out this year is way too demanding on my schedule, and I can't continue to fly back between here and there. It just doesn't work anymore. Ash gets really down. This was the last thing he needed after everything that had happened between him and Iris. He had finally got his spirits back up, and now he's told that the gym battle he came for is no longer in existence. Iris then pulls Brycen aside. Brycen, could you please have one more for old time's sake? Please, she says. If not for him, then please do it for me. I kind of feel bad because of some things that have happened recently, and I'd like to try and make it up to him. Brycen tells Iris, I'm on a really tight schedule. I have to leave Icera City within the next hour. I can't just open up the gym and go inside and choose to have a battle. Iris looks at Brycen. She can see that his bags are already packed. She says, okay, how about this? How about if we can make it a quick battle? What is a stipulation that you'd be comfortable with? Brycen sighs. He said, you're not going to let this go, are you? Iris looks at him with a smile on her face. She says, please, do this one last thing for me. Brycen sighs. Okay, I do have one gym badge left that I was just going to keep as a memento as my time as a gym leader. But but if Ash can beat me here, it'll be his. Brycen and Iris turn to Ash and Roxy. Ash, you're in luck, Brycen says. Ash turns and immediately perks up. Brycen then says, after some talking with Iris, she's convinced me. You will be my last battle as a gym leader, but here's a stipulation. You have 30 minutes to beat me in a battle. If you can't end it, then you won't get the chance to earn my badge, the last badge in existence for this gym. Ash gets super excited. Really? Really, really, really? Thank you, Brycen. He says, don't thank me. Thank your friend Iris. She's the one who convinced me. Ash looks at Iris. He can tell that this was a genuine effort for her to try and make up with him. He gives her a smile. Ash turns to Brycen. Okay, how many Pokemon will we be using? Brycen says, this will be a 2-on-2. But Ash, I'm not just going to roll over for you. I'm going to make this the hardest battle that I have ever fought. Ash can feel it burning inside. This is something he knows that this is going to be a good battle. Ash says, okay, let's go inside. Brycen says, nope, the gym is closed permanently. We will do this battle right here, right now. Ash says, here, is it okay for us to do it outside? Brycen says, as the gym leader, I have the right to demand where the battle is at any time. Ash says, so you're telling me that I could have battled you back in Burbank City and you could have given me a badge? Brycen says, yeah, technically, but I wanted you to earn your way to me. After all, I am one of the strongest gym leaders in the Unova region. Ash says, alright then, you got a deal. We will battle here. Brycen with a smile on his face, alright Ash, are you ready? As they take their positions. Brycen sends in his first Pokemon, Cryogonal. Ash, after using his Pokedex to learn that Cryogonal is a nice type, chooses to go with Riolu. Riolu jumps in and Brycen gives Ash the first move. Ash orders Riolu to use an Aura Sphere, and Brycen counters it with a Rapid Spin, knocking the Aura Sphere away. Brycen tells Ash, not a bad move, but you're not going to be able to get through my defenses with something as simple as that. Ash thinks to himself, great, another person that can deflect the Aura Sphere. And he thinks back to his battle with Iris. Wait, she knew that was coming because she was battling me. And then Ash thinks, and Brycen, being a nice type gym leader, would know that a fighting type may have that ability, so he may have a defense for that. Ash thinks, alright then, Riolu, use quick attack. So Riolu rushes in, and Brycen, in order to counter, orders a Reflect, which powers up Cryogonal's defense as Riolu connects with it, minimizing the damage. Once again, Ash, you're going to have to do better. You're not going to be able to break my defense with such weak attacks. Ash is thinking, this isn't going to work. I can't use pure offense against this Cryogonal. Ash then does something that catches both Brycen and Iris off guard. He tells Riolu to come back. Iris compliments to Roxy. Did he just really order Riolu to return? Roxy says, you don't know the amount of growth that he's gone through. It's like your absence put a motivation under him. He wanted to get better once he found out that you were the champion, so it wouldn't look like you were his crutch the entire time. Iris then focuses heavily on the battle. This has her interest more now than ever. Ash then says, alright Brycen, if I can't beat you with pure force, then I'm gonna have to get a little bit tactile, winking at Iris, and he pulls out a Pokeball and he sends in Lampent. As Lampent emerges from its ball, Iris gets a feeling. She says, it can't be. I recognize that Lampent. Roxy says, yeah, that Lampent was actually a gift that Ash had gotten from the Nurse Joy in the Pokemon Center in Driftville City. Iris just stares in awe. She's glad that Lampent found its new home. Ash then orders Lampent to use a Flame Burst. Lampent does, and as the attack rushes in, Cryogonal counters with the Frost Breath, canceling it out. Ash thinks, wow, its attacks are cold enough to freeze fire. He's got to start getting some damage on, or else he's not going to be able to win this. Ash then orders Lampent to use Hex, which does manage to hit some damage. Then Brycen counters with an Aurora Beam, but Ash is ready for this. He orders Lampent just to take and to push through, get in close to Cryogonal. This move catches Brycen off guard. Why is he ordering Lampent to take damage? So he orders Cryogonal to push even harder with an Aurora Beam, trying to freeze Lampent in the process. But Lampent is able to get in close, and Ash orders a Will-O-Wisp that envelops Cryogonal. Brycen says, I see, that was your game the whole time, to cause a burn on my Pokemon. Good idea, Ash, but who did it cost more to do that, me or you? Ash knows that his move was a high-risk one, but he's not about to be taken down by this Cryogonal. Lampent is enjoying this. It's having the time of its life. After all, it loves to play. And Ash uses this to its advantage as Brycen orders attack after attack from Cryogonal. But Ash orders Lampent to use Dodge as it fades in and out of the attacks, allowing the burn to actually take effect and weaken Cryogonal. In the end, Cryogonal starts to move slower because of it, and Lampent is able to get in with the Flame Burst, knocking it out. Brycen is impressed as he recalls Cryogonal. He didn't think that strategy would work against Cryogonal, and he compliments Ash on it. But he tells Ash that he better prepare for this as he sends in his next Pokemon, Beartic. Iris remembers Beartic from their battle. She knows just how powerful it is, and Ash is locked in his two Pokemon already between Lampent and Riolu. This is going to be one tough one for Ash. But Ash is confident. He thinks, well, I have a fire type on my side, so it doesn't really matter. All I gotta do is the same strategy as before, and that overconfidence ends up costing him when he orders Lampent to get in with another Will-O-Wisp, and Brycen orders Beartic to counter with the Brine. Due to the damage that Lampent had compiled with his battle with Cryogonal, the Brine hits for double damage, knocking it out. Ash recalls Lampent, thanks it for a battle well fought. He thinks to himself, yeah, I may have gotten a little cocky there, but there's no time for that. He looks down at Riolu and asks if it's ready. Riolu nods as it jumps back in. It wants a chance to face this Beartic, as it looks like a powerful opponent. Brycen tells Ash that he's on the clock. They've been battling now for 15 minutes, and if he can't win this in another 15, then they're gonna lose. Then Brycen will call the match, and Ash won't get his chance to get his badge. Ash says, "Don't worry, Brycen, we're gonna be walking away with that badge," as he orders Riolu to use a quick attack to rush in, and it does hit Baratic, but Baratic barely feels it, retaliating with a slash that catches Riolu, knocking it into the ground. Riolu is struggling to get back up. That move hit with a critical. Ash thinks to himself, wow, there's a lot of power, as Riolu is looking on at the Baratic, but the little Pokemon is not going to back down. It uses its aura ability to fill out the surrounding area, and it can feel that Ash's heart is beating intensely, but Riolu's heart is beating just as intense. This causes Riolu to start to surge with aura, just like it did in the battle with Grimsley. Ash notices this, but this is different. This battle has barely gotten started, and Riolu was able to access his aura ability. Ash is lost in his own thought when Iris calls out to him, and then he realizes that Baratic is on the move again, as Brycen had ordered another slash attack. Ash then orders Riolu to counter with the Force Palm, and the Force Palm catches the slash, and the two cancel each other out. You can see that Baratic is starting to struggle against Riolu with its aura power-up. Brycen finds this quite curious. He didn't think that this Riolu would have the power to match his Baratic, so he wants to see exactly how far he can push it. He then orders Baratic to use an Icicle Crash, and Ash orders Riolu to use Quick Attack to dodge it, and the Quick Attacks are successful in dodging around the Icicle Crash, and then he gets in close to Baratic, and Ash orders a Force Palm that connects with Baratic at point blank range, knocking it back. The force of the Force Palm manages to hit Baratic into a paralysis. Ash can see this, and he thinks, okay, we got a lucky break. Now we can't waste it. He orders Riolu to rush in and to use an Aura Sphere. Brycen yells out to Baratic to counter with a slash attack, and the slash hits the Aura Sphere, and it manages to push through, catching Riolu in the process, pushing it back even more. That slash again hit for critical damage, and Riolu is breathing heavily because of it. Ash knows that Riolu isn't going to have a lot of time left. It's about to hit the limit of its endurance. Ash thinks to himself, I can try a counter here, but unfortunately, I don't think it'll be enough. We have to get in with a direct attack, and we have to hit the same spot we did before with Force Palm. The only problem is that seems to be impossible. Baratic is well trained, and it seems to be guarding that spot to prevent further damage to it, but Ash has to create an opening. Ash thinks to himself, okay, I think I got an idea. It's risky, but if we can pull it off, we might just win this. He then orders Riolu to rush in with a quick attack, straight towards Baratic, seemingly throwing any thought of defense or evasion to the wind. Brycen thinks that Ash is up to something, but this chance is too good for him to pass up. He is right in range for an Icicle Crash, so he orders one. Ash orders Riolu to use quick attack to outspeed them. Riolu is barely outpacing their Icicle Crashes as they crash right on top of it as he's heading in towards Baratic. Once Riolu gets in close, Ash then orders an Aura Sphere. Baratic then counters with another slash attack. Ash then orders Riolu to use the Aura Sphere to push the slash up out of the way and to use its other hand to hit with Force Palm in the same spot as before. And with Riolu's aura sensing ability, it's able to see the spot that it hit before, and it connects with its own critic, knocking out Baratic and earning Ash his 7th gym badge, the Icicle badge. As Baratic falls, Riolu falls as well, but it's still able to stand. Ash can't believe it. Baratic and Brycen had pushed them to their limits, and Riolu seems to be in more control of its aura ability than before. Brycen recalls his Baratic, and he approaches Ash and presents him with the Icicle badge. Brycen says, Ash, I'm glad that my final battle as a gym leader could have been against you. Here's the last Icicle badge in existence, and he hands it over. He then says, I hope you guys stop by Burbank City sometime. I would love a chance to have a warm-up battle against you, Ash. And then Brycen turns to Iris. Hey champ, you better watch out for this one, because he can easily take your title if you're not careful. With that, Brycen parts ways with the trio. Ash excited that he's earned his 7th badge, and not only that, but he was able to earn it from a gym leader as powerful as Brycen. Later that night at the Pokemon Center, after their Pokemon are healed up, Iris tells Ash about her connection with Lampent and how she had to calm it down a couple of years before, after its owner had passed away. Ash tells Iris that when they were in the Pokemon Center, Lampent kept reaching out to Riolu. It was the oddest thing. I had to use Riolu to battle it, but in the end, Lampent only wanted to play, and after we spent some time with it, Nurse Joy gave us his Pokeball. Clay said that it had belonged to a friend of his, and Iris tells Ash, yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, the friend had passed away, leaving Lampent by itself. It must have gotten really lonely in the Pokemon Center. I'm glad that it found a new trainer in you, Ash, because I don't think anybody else could have taken better care of it. With that, the trio have to decide on their next stop, as there's only one more badge that Ash has to earn before he gets a chance to compete in the Pokemon League. Iris then tells Ash, well, there's a gym in Absolute City where my grandfather is. He is the gym leader, and he is very powerful. But before we go, there's a place that I want to visit, that I want to catch up on, just north of Icera City. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and if you like the content that you're seeing, please don't forget to subscribe and like the videos. Also, don't forget to follow me on all my social medias like Twitter, and join the Patreon, as every little bit helps for me to continue to bring you the content that you like. I'm Ronan Charizard, and I'll see you in the next video.